When politics unfolds, when decisions are made, we reveal the impact. Welcome to the Polity, your deep dive into the forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They finish school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ebuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
So I must say that, of course, we are always here to bring you the intrigues and at the same time bring you the compelling conversations on burning national issues. This is what we do on the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. So we are saying welcome to today's conversation on this very dial, the seriously authentic radio station. And it's glad to know that you are always there for us because now I can't and we're glad that today is going to be an interesting conversation. Today being being Thursday, the 7th of August, 2025. My name is Franklin Ebuka, and don't forget that we always live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You can quickly dash to the page, share the post we have there, and then follow the video and drop your comment at the right time. We are going to acknowledge that. Don't forget too that we are live on our Instagram handle and likewise on our YouTube channel, Udala Radio. Just get to the page and let's get to talk on this very handle. I have Dr. Tony Mbeki with me this morning. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin Ebuka. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Udala and Onitsha. Wherever you are listening to us from, it's always a pleasure. Good morning, God Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, for making us to be back here in our sanctuary to pontificate the truth. For those who may not like the truth, you have no option but just ensure you get to the path of the truth, because the truth will always set you free.
Okay, so as we go on, Chisom is going to join us, but for now we have to begin this very conversation because what we do here is that we get to draw conversation from headlines from various newspapers, the way they are reported across the country. But before we get to the headlines today, of course, we have 4 newspapers, The Nation, Vanguard, Punch, and The Guardian. But before we get to that very place, and something made headlines yesterday, and it was about Anambra State because there was this very statement that was issued by NBA, chastising the Nigerian police force for trying to investigate Anambra State Attorney General for doing what the Constitution gives her right to do. Tony, you saw that very reaction from the NBA, and the NBA is asking question, how did we get here? Do you have the answers?
That tells you the state of the country. And when we talk about NBA, we are talking about Nigerian Bar Association, and when we talk about the Attorney General, we are talking about the Commissioner for Justice, Anambra State. When we talk about the Director of Public Prosecution, we're also talking about those who work with the office at the Lighthouse Orca. But what is the issue? Because we want to break it down so that Nigerians would understand, and then why Nigerian Bar Association is coming the way they are coming. Of course, they have done the onerous job. They have intervened where necessary. But we must call a spade a spade. That's what we do here. And we must not call a spade by any other name. And just as we have all stated, according to their report, they say it's an overreach for police to purport to have power to investigate an Attorney General for discontinuing a criminal matter. And they made it understand that Nigerian police, let it be the FG monitoring unit, let it be any organ of the Nigerian police has no power whatsoever to investigate the Attorney General of Anambra State or Attorney General of any state that is the Commissioner for Justice of any state for discontinuing any matter that has to do with the report from the Nigerian Bar Association. They say that the Nigerian Police Force has purported to have the power to investigate the exercise of the power of the Attorney General of the Federation to take over, continue, or withdraw criminal proceedings before the court of the state. And according to the NBA, they say it is shocking and indeed provocative that the IGP monitoring unit of the Nigerian police invited and released on bail the Director of Public Prosecution and some other law officers in the Ministry of Justice for exercising the power of the state Attorney General to enter a nulli prosequi in respect of a criminal matter, and in a continuing to display their brazen assault on the office of the Attorney General. The police have also extended an invitation to the Attorney General of the state in a purported exercise of that thing, and then they berated the Nigerian police for that. But we must state it very, very clear. You don't overreach your powers. Constitution has given and granted and also provided powers, especially when it comes to issues relating to law. So in so doing, I'm wondering how can, because the matter in view, we must state it. Remember when EFCC had a raid in a private apartment somewhere in Oka, and in such raid, remember what happened? One of the officers of the EFCC was shot by some of the persons who were actually targeted. But we know how this generated uproar, and the Fat Thump even twisted it. I remember one of these people that usually attack former governor of Anambra State, where he said that the former governor has not even condemned it. I'm talking about P2B. He hasn't condemned such, what happened in Oka. But we learned that, yes, the very man who shot EFCC officer was later arrested. And then the pump action gun was also recovered from him. So we learned very well that that offense falls within the ambit of the state. And we also learned that the state decided to file nulli prosequi, and that nulli entirely means that the state is not interested to continue with the case. And we also understand, based on what the Constitution states, if you go to section 211 subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, it explicitly provides that when exercising the power to discontinue a prosecution, an Attorney General is expected to consider what? The public interest, justice, and the need to prevent abuse of legal process. Now, it is not the power of IG, Inspector General of Police, or its monitoring team to question, to investigate, to probe if Attorney General of Anambra State indeed considered public interest, justice, and the need to prevent abuse of legal process. So he has no legally obligated right to give reasons. Because why the Attorney General does this? He has no mandate to give explanation why he does what probably he has done. So it is important we look at these issues. So that is exactly the contention. And then the Nigerian Bar Association has said that they have instructed and those activated their department to take on the police on this issue. That you can't be overreaching, inviting Attorney General, inviting Commissioner for Justice, you release them on bail over what? Because they exercise their constitutional power. So when has constitutional power becomes a subject of police scrutiny?
Now, today I can recall when this incident happened in Oka. I think that was around Commissioner quarters when EFCC came for that very raid. And in the incident, or in that very incident, one operator of the EFCC was shot and killed. I think somebody Salisu. And looking at what happened then, because there was story that came out then, EFCC said they came after fraudsters who were living in that very area.
Exactly.
But the man who was arrested later said that he was in his house and he saw EFCC operative, scaling the fence, and he thought they were criminals, and so he shot in self-defense. That was his own argument then. We know how that story, went viral, different narrative from EFCC and different narrative from the suspect. And since then, the guy has been, he has been undergoing trial. And now the Attorney General decided to do that very key, just like he said. It is her discretion to do so based on certain convictions that she has. Now the question is, does the police, or the question is, if the police actually try to find out from them, if the police try to find out from the Ministry of Justice, what happened? If police actually has interest in that very case, or if the police thinks that due process was not followed. That's number one. The number two is this. We have not heard from the police to narrate their own side of what actually transpired. But does it mean that the police does not have a legal unit that can advise it on certain issues like this? Because if this is the discretion of the Attorney General to exercise as guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution, so why should the police invite legal officers in the Ministry of Justice, and then grant them bail on suspicion of what?
I think that is abuse of power, if you ask me. That is abuse of power. We've known very well that this incident happened this year, January, if we could recall very well. And just like you said, the man in question, we know very well the assistant superintendent working with EFCC, Halisu Sahabi. He was the one shot. Sometimes he's being called Salisu at the same time, but he was the one shot. And just like you pointed out, the young man who shot him said he was in his apartment, that he saw a man scaling his face, and then the man was armed, and he thought that this man that was armed definitely would be a criminal, and he shot at them in self-defense. And he said this thing was happening around 2 a.m. midnight, in the wee hour. So you can understand. But Joshua Chukwubeze Ikechukwu, I think that was the man that opened the fire. Joshua Chukwubeze Ikechukwu, if I can recall now, that killed the EFCC operative Salisu, and he also injured another one. So he probably, when he discovered what he did, he hid under the ceiling, if you can remember the story, before being arrested. And just like I said, they recovered the pump action with which he used to shoot. Now, the Attorney General of Anambra State, looking at the constitutional provision under Section 211, subsection 3, activated, in fact, invoked both the spirit and the letters of the law. Now, because police have an interest in that case, that is the cocoa, they have an interest. And they were surprised that after investigation, definitely before the matter will be brought before a state high court, there will be imprimatur of the Director of Public Prosecution. That is the office of the Attorney General. They must advise before the case could continue. That is the standard procedure anywhere. And they advise that we want to take back this case. One, take over. Remember, if you go by that section, let's go back to the Constitution and probably read that, and then before we go over to other things we have this very morning, so that people understand why Attorney Generals have powers. Even when, if Tinubu wants to, it's just like if Tinubu wants to release him, Nnamdi Kanu. Now the DSS will invite somebody from Ministry of Justice and investigate why Tinubu wants to release Nnamdi Kanu. That is what it's like. Or if Tinubu wants to release any person that is undergoing trial at any federal court, because his own will be on federal courts, but the governor will be on state what? State court. That is the provision of the Constitution. So if you look at that section, it's important that we understand when the NBA is shouting that this is an overreach. Now, Section 211, subsection 1 says the Attorney General of a state shall have power. If you look at subsection 1A, to institute and undertake criminal proceedings against any person before any court of law in Nigeria other than a court martial in respect of any offense created by or under any law of the House of Assembly. So that offense should be an offense that contravenes a law made by the State House of Assembly. That subsection B says to take over and continue any such criminal procedure that may have been instituted by any other authority or person, even if the police have instituted it, even if the NDLA, any agency, any security agency, if they have instituted any matter before any court, let it be magistrate, anywhere, the Attorney General under Section 211 has powers to take over. Ask them, stay away and take over. And then subsection C says to discontinue at any stage before judgment is delivered any such criminal proceedings instituted or undertaken by him or any other authority. And that is the power exercised by the Attorney General. And look at subsection 3. In exercising his powers under this section, the Attorney General of a state have a regard to the public interest, the interest of justice, and the need to prevent abuse of legal process. This provision did not say Attorney General shall account before the Nigerian police, shall account before the state government. He has nobody to render any accounts on what he or she has done. But the only thing is that very section, subsection 3, is a moral burden. It's something moral. He has to consider, or she has to consider, the interest of peace, public interest, and interest of justice is a moral thing. And now police invited Attorney General of Anambra State for exercising such constitutional mandate. It's just like police inviting somebody from the Federal Ministry of Justice for exercising a mandate that Tinubu or probably the governor or the Attorney General of the country had wanted to take over a case. You see, we must be a lawful country. I have always maintained that we have lawless institutions, lawless agencies, and this is a typical example of lawless act.
Okay, so what you just heard now is development for Anambra State, because many people didn't know about this development until the NBA came out with that.
We didn't know. It was NBA that said they have activated certain doctrines and said they will face police head on this issue.
So we're going to see how it's going to happen, because the NBA under Afamosi seems to be determined to confront some of the monsters as long as the justice delivery system in Nigeria is concerned. So we're going to see how this is going to end. Whatever happens, of course, we're going to bring you update on those developments. All right, so once more, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and this is the Polity Thursday edition, the 7th day of August 2025. And let's get to see what the papers are saying. We have Nation newspaper, Vanguard, Punch, and the Guardian newspaper. We'll begin with the headlines on the Nation newspaper. This one says torrents of tributes for media icon Doyin Abiola, and the wife of Memiko Abiola, who died yesterday. She's known as a trailblazer in journalism. And if you look at the writer in this very story, it says journalism trailblazer dies at 82. Tinubu governors, MPAN, NGE, others mourn. And then another story above the nameplate says 200,000 naira loan for 7 core members, a 9 billion naira deal. That's on page 4. This is talking about Credit Corps, which was brought about by Mr. President, and they're saying that the Credit Corps has entered into a partnership with NYSC to ensure that loans of about 200,000 naira are made available to core members to help them to offset certain kind of things at an interest rate of a single digit. The other headline here says Ikeja Disco sinks into ownership crisis. It has a rider, i.e. rejects receivership. The story is on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. 2 Ghanaian ministers, others killed in crash helicopter. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. In fact, that story went viral yesterday after it emanated that there was a crash in Ghana. And on mockery, Lagos remains safest state in Nigeria. That's on page 5. And somebody might want to ask him what were the criteria he used in arriving at that very conclusion. Money laundering. EFCC launches probe into real estate. It has a rider. Agency secures interim forfeiture of 15 estates. How public servants are involved. If you read this very story, EFCC is saying that most of the abandoned estates in the FCT and some other places that they are owned by civil servants who stole some money from the public coffers to begin the project. So by the time they couldn't continue with their stealing to get enough money, they will abandon the project and look for people who can partner with them. And if that doesn't come, of course, those things become abandoned. And he's saying they're going to look into that because some persons are beginning to launder money through real estate. Then another headline says Nigeria, or rather President hails Nigerian teenagers for feat at Global English Language Contest. Page 27. See, each time I see these kind of things, of course, it excites me that Nigerians are doing good abroad. But what worries me is that we always do these very wonders when it comes to, spoken English, things we go and do orally. So what about things we can create, just like the developed worlds are doing now, where you use, where you try to use your skills to solve a problem, other than all these competition on mathematics and on English. Then let's look at the headline that says free health care for low-income pensioners. It has a rider. President directs action of pension increase. The story is on the Nation newspaper. And the headline says Kwan Wan rejects fans' claim on alleged boarding rules infraction. Page 5. I don't know if you saw the video, Tony, of how they should I say that the plane missed him by the whiskers? He could have been killed, and at the same time, he could have also endangered the lives of some other Nigerians who were on board that very Valu Jet airport. Maybe we'll talk about that later. And these are the headlines we have on the Nation newspaper. So we are going to cross over to the Vanguard to see the headlines. So on Vanguard newspaper, we have the banner headline that says 2027 options before the North. It's on page 10. It has a rider. Faces tough choice over Tinubu, Jonathan, Atiku, Obi, and Mechi. So the North is considering who they are going to align with for 2027 general election. Whether it's going to be Tinubu for him to complete his 8-year term, or rather for him to complete his second term, so that he can become the turn of the North in the equation of power balancing between the South and the North. They're also thinking about Jonathan, who they might draft in, and he will just serve for one term and leave. What about Atiku and the Obi and Amechi? Atiku and Obi, or rather, Obi and Amechi have also promised that they're going to serve for one term. But what about Atiku? If he goes in and gets a ticket, would he serve one term for power to not even the moment he even gets in? Of course, he has truncated that power arrangement between the North and the South. So that story is an interesting one. You can read it up and see what it's all about. Then let's look at other headlines here. Many abandoned estates in Abuja owned by civil servants. EFCC is on page 5. I've just printed this very story. On 2025, Jonathan ready to run again. Close ally confirms. That's on page 8 to 9, or rather page 8 to 9, yes, of the Vanguard newspaper. It has a rider. Meets IBB. Consult with South stakeholders in Port Harcourt. PDP intensifies effort to woo him. Quite interesting, somebody might want to say. FG urged to suspend chairman Uniport Governing Council over allegations of corruption. Check page 10 of Vanguard newspaper. The another headline here says Ghana Defense Environment Minister 6 others that die in military helicopter crash. It's on page 6. Thieves shouldn't be rewarded with ministerial appointee, or rather, thieves shouldn't be rewarded with ministerial appointments. Emir Sanusi, he was on TV yesterday where he spoke about how, money has become everything. We don't have regard for value again. What will happen now is that once you make money, of course, you become the center of everybody. And in Nigerian politics, we reward people who are not supposed to be rewarded because thieves and touts have become the ones who are rewarded with the ministerial appointments. This one says WASC parents group 1 paper has cancelled. It's on page 12 of Vanguard newspaper. Late Doyin Abiola to be buried in Lekki, family confirms. It's on page 7. He has a rider. Tinubu governors MPAN NGE Mon. FG approves tax incentives for manufacturers using local raw materials. That's on page 19. Yes, this is quite interesting. If manufacturers who are using local raw materials could be given tax incentive, of course, it will have a way of helping the economy to grow. So we'll cross over to the next paper. Now, on Punch newspaper, we have the banner headline says foreign investors sell off 576 billion naira Nigerian stocks in 6 months. It's on page 19. It has a rider that says outflows soar 85% year on year. Economy cites Trump era policies shift towards treasury bills. The story beside the nameplate says WAEC under fire as result portal goes down. It's on page 30. Pension battle. Police retirees reject FG's healthcare offer. It's on page 7. Nigeria-US advance high-level talks over visa restrictions. The story is on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. And this one says, Sonwolu pledges statewide infrastructure at Badagry roads unveiling. It has a picture story there. You can check it out. Receivership row. Ebim Power challenges FBN Quest takeover movies on page 18. Kwam 1 pushes back as fan probes airport incident. The story is on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. And the final story on the front page of the Punch newspaper says, Tinubu consoles Ghana after copter crash kills 2 ministers, 6 others. These are the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And we're going to go over to the Guardian straight away. And the banner headline says, First Lady's humanitarian donations hit 12.9 billion in 2 years. It's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria may split without restructuring before 2027. Mode once. Former President General of Ohades Ndibo, he's the one who's saying so. It's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Appeal Court restores interim forfeiture order on assets linked to Yahaya Bello. The story is on page 30. JAM sets higher bar for under 16 candidates. It's on page 4 of our Guardian newspaper. Ayinde risk ban over unruly behavior at Abuja Airport. Check page 2 of the Guardian. IPAC writes RISIEC rejects August 30 state local government elections. It's on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. ADC APC chieftain warned Tinubu to shelve re-election focus. Or rather, ADC APC chieftain warned Tinubu to shelve re-election focus on governance. The story is on page 6. Rep decries non-release of immunization funds. Is on page 4. Tinubu, MPAN, NGE, NUJ, others mourn, pay tribute to late Doyin Abiola. Is on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper. Then the final headline we had this very morning says 6 FMCG firms. 6 FMCG firms' cost of sales soared by 24% to 562 billion in second quarter. The story is on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
All right, once more, thank you for staying tuned to that Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to The Polity, a program of news and current affairs that draws conversations from developments in the country the way they're captured by various newspapers. My name is Franklin and Ebuka, and I'm with Dr. Olisa Mbeki this very morning. And we have to start this very conversation from the education angle, where we have seen different reactions trailing the massive failure that was recorded in the WAEC examination, which the result will release on Monday. Now, look at this very headline, the way it's captured in Vanguard newspaper. It says, strong reactions against the mass failure of candidates in this year's senior secondary school certificate examinations, SSAE, continued yesterday, with parents and some groups calling for the cancellation of some of the papers, especially English language. This is even as the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, NAPS, in criticizing the conduct of the examination during nighttime hours, described it as an unacceptable and detrimental to performance. Now, recall that only 38.32% pass English language and mathematics at the credit level. Both papers are key to securing university admission in the country. And now we have seen commentators on these very developments, especially parents. They are blaming the mass failure on lapses on the part of West African Examination Council, WAEC, regarding the time English language exam was written by these very candidates. And so many persons have also reacted. If you go to the social media, you see Nigerians also reacting, asking WAEC that English paper should be receipt. No, there should be a receipt for it, that the manner it was handled, how students wrote exam late in the night, even till 10 p.m., that it affected their performance. And why Nigerians were calling for this? Yesterday, WAEC shut down the portal. Okay, not even shut down. The portal for students to check their results shut down. And WAEC said, give us 48 hours. We are going to resurrect that. It's because of technical issues. So, Tony, let's begin. Another issue about an exam board. Last time it was JAMB, and this time around WAEC. When that exam lasted into the night, we talked about it here, talking about the possible implications on the result of the students. And now, result is out, and everybody's crying, asking WAEC to reconsider or to consider cancelling the English language paper, and then let there be a receipt. How do you weigh in?
I don't have a problem with receipts in most places. The idea of receipt is for those who may not have done well to pay the necessary fee and get the paper research. And then the most important thing is we must, in our educational systems, make room for receipt. Even in our universities, most times you have to wait to the next round of academic section for you to have a receipt of a particular course you have failed. Why can't we make things very simple? There could be a mid-window template for people to sit for exams they did not pass within any semester, and it may cover both the ones that are in other semester that may not necessarily be within that semester. We should have such template. We must not wait for a white man to do something for us before we start doing it. Most times we will just leave, be at the back. If a white man comes up with such idea now, we're not keen. So I don't have a problem with receipt, but I have strong support for maintaining standard in any of these issues. If you look at WAEC, we are told because most times I have also maintained that the exam itself is WASE. That is the exam that people had mass failure. And it's not WAEC. WAEC is the body that sets up such exam. But I know that most of our journalists have not followed the right thing, and I have been championing on this from time to time. The exam sat for is WASE, not WAEC, as you can see on national dailies on different papers. So they are wrong. The exam these students sat for is WASE, not WAEC. There is difference between WASE and WAEC. WASE is the name of the exam they sat for. WAEC is the body that sets those exams. I have explained this. So now, just like some people, sometimes they will tell you federal government, anything presidency does, they will say federal government. It is wrong. Federal government comprises 3 tiers of government. Not what one organ does, it becomes federal government. That is not true. But rather you say presidency or Tinubu's administration. We must factor these things. You can't hear FG the way we pronounce it here in Nigeria, in other climes like United States of America, where we borrow this. They don't use FG. They only use FG when what they are trying to portray has the imprimatur of the 3 organs of government. It becomes FG. But that's by the way. Let's go back to the issue. based on this mass failure, like this subject in question, English language, there are many people who have attributed the mass failure to poor teaching quality. That many schools lack qualified teachers in this subject. You know, if Chisom were to be a teacher, she would be one of the qualified teachers because she does quite a lot when it comes to these phonetics. But that's by the way. And we also have the issue of outdated curriculum delivery. We have talked about it many times here. Most of our curriculum, I think the ones we have presently, is antiquated, bucolic, and rustic. And we also have another issue about some of these subjects. And so many of them, you have overcrowded classroom. A classroom that is meant for how many people? Probably 15, 20. You have the classroom harboring 50, 100 of students, and many of them will be at the back. They wouldn't even know what is going on at the front. I've visited some universities. I've visited Oko, the Federal Polytechnic. I've also visited Omunze. I've also visited Unizik. And there are places I've visited, you will see lecture going on. Because the classroom is crowded. There are people having their own conversation at the back. They will not even follow what the lecturer is saying. And you've seen that in some classrooms in secondary schools. So that is one of the, and also you have quite even exam malpractice clamped down, so many factors. But for this present WASSCE exam that we recorded mass failure, can we attribute it to another technical glitch? The answer is no. This one was well spaced. The students know about the exam quite before time. They were meant to prepare for this exam. But one thing about parents are now coming out, leading crusade that this exam be cancelled because your ward did not perform well. I disagree. Totally disagree. We must set standard. But what I agree, let us have window within specified period where people can receive for exam, not necessarily waiting for the next turn, for next year.
Okay, so are you saying that the fact that students were made to wait from morning till night and write exams using candle, that it not in any way affect their performance in that very examination?
Definitely, it would affect their performance. Another thing I have said many times here is this. Remember, in the case of JAM, we saw them writing with candle. And then in the case of WASSCE, this exam we are talking about now, we also had a similar issue of writing with candle. Once exam could not start the period it is stipulated to how it was supposed to start, there should be cancellation and postponement. Exams, if you look at each exam question paper, it has time. There are ones that will tell you 2 o'clock p.m. There are ones that will tell you 3 o'clock p.m. and tell you the duration of the exam, when it is expected to finish. We don't keep to time in Africa. And that is why there is this slogan, African time. Even the academics. If you go to academia where things like this should be corrected, these things are, see, for me, for the fact that time was not followed, this must have a strong effect. So to that extent, I join those who are asking that the exam be cancelled based on the timing, which definitely would affect a lot of students. But outside those who wrote the exam so late, then the other ones calling for the cancellation, I still disagree with them on that.
All right. Chisom, good morning.
Good morning, Franklin. Good morning, Tony. I joined the conversation when you two were talking about WAEC. And I must say that outside of the portal shut down, I saw a report that said the portal was shut down for 24 hours, hoping that some technical glitches that caused it will be rectified in 24 hours so the students can go back to checking their results. But another important thing to know there is that about 38%, only about 38% of the over 1.9 million people who wrote that exam got up to 5 credits, math and English inclusive. And then the mass failure that was with the English language, which was attributed to the fact that that exam was cancelled on that day. According to reports, it was allegedly leaked. up until the last paper that they had to write. Some schools finished by past 8, some by past 7, some by past 6. They actually attributed that one to logistics because eventually when they got the papers out, they still had to dispatch them. And by the time that happened, logistic factors, some people started really late. But that's being aside, I think another loophole we need to check here is this exam leakage. How on earth does that happen to a system that is progressive? We talk about election rigging and all of those, the malpractices in election. This malpractice isn't the kind of malpractice that students in the classroom are responsible for. This is a malpractice that people who are supposed to be guardians of the system are responsible for. And so the big question is, when do we have institutions working, hold them responsible for glitches like a paper leaking? Heads have to roll. If a WAEC commission, the head of WAEC has to go if an exam leaks under his watch. I tell you, Franklin, exams go stop to the leak. But because heads don't roll, there are no consequences. Every year, there are 1 or 2 leaked papers, and this year they try to do better by cancelling when it leaks. But it kept leaking because the fundamental part of that system is sick. So while we are talking about other things like, however it turned out, the root cause has to be taken care of. Now, about the students who had to write at night, did it impact them? It's neither here nor there for me. Because English, unlike literature, is not something that, it's especially grammar, is largely, has largely what they call it, a formula. Yes. For every word that has a present, the past does not change despite the condition. I mean, the past of is cannot start being was because it rained. No. If it goes to another
remember, if you're mentally strained, can't it affect your comprehension?
Definitely. Comprehension is understanding and then pulling out what you have understood.
I was going to get to comprehension. Comprehension is just a part of that examination. So like I said, some things have formulas. Things like sounds have formulas. I don't know about the WAEC questions of today, but the WAEC I wrote had the oral. You
mean the WASE you wrote?
Yes, the WASE exam I wrote. WAEC. Yeah, the WASE exam I wrote. Yeah, but you get what I mean to say. The WASE exam I wrote has different sections. There is a comprehension, there is the OBJ, there is the oral English section. My point is, largely outside of the comprehension, it has a formula. I like to think, some things are static, some answers are static. So the point is, regardless of the mental strain, some of these things come from people, our children now depending on it will come out and we will find a way to write it. So they no longer even bother to know these things. And I am afraid to say that some of these things are no longer taught the way they should be taught in schools today. I stand to be corrected, but these are my observations. I am hoping that in the coming days, the system starts to work better.
All right, talking about education, there's something about education in Anambra which developed yesterday, which we're going to cover a bit before we switch over to the next. But before then, let's go for this very commercial break.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
For Soludo, ndị Anambra gakwanụ ntị o unu ekwekwene ka ewere unu wee gbochie ọrụ ọma Chukwu nna Chichas Soludo wee na-arụ na Anambra steeti. Unu makwa na anyụkọ mamịrị ọnụ ọkpụ ụfụfụ. Ngwa bịakọtanụ n'igwe ka anyị kwado nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Chukwu ma Chichas Soludo. Unu afụghị ihe niile ọ na-eme na mbara dị iche iche site na Anambra North, South to Central. Nekwa okporo ụzọ niile nke ọrụgo, nekwa ụlọ akwụkwọ nke ọ na-emepe, nekwa hospital nke ọrụgo. Unu afụgonụ ka ụmụ nwaanyị anyị si wee na-amụ nwa n'udo free of charge. Ụmụ akwụkwọ wee na-agụ akwụkwọ n'efu. Ihe a niile ya na ihe ndị ọzọ ka Chukwu ma Chichas Soludo na-eme na Anambra steeti. A na-ekuzi maka New Government House nke gwuru okwu ya kemgbe 1991, ya bụ 34 years na ya na Soludo arụgharịghị ya. Kedu maka New Solution Fund City? Nwanne m Soludo nọ n'ọrụ. Ndị Anambra ọrụ ọma ama nkwụkwọ agụ bịanụ n'igwe ka anyị kwado nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Chukwu ma Chichas Soludo. Anambra Patriots for Soludo.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you once more for staying tuned to the Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to the Polity on the Seriously Authentic radio station. My name is Franklin Ebuka Chisom and Olisa Mbeki. All of us are together for this very conversation. So we just finished that very conversation about WAEC and the outcome of the exam that he conducted, which many parents and some other stakeholders have been reacting, asking for cancellation of the English paper for a receipt. Now we come back to Anambra State, where also an appointment made in the education sector yesterday, brought about some brouhaha. And talking about the appointment of the Professor Keto Menugwa as the substantive vice chancellor of Chukwuemeka Odumegwu University, Anambra State, the one located at Iwari. And of course, they said everything about the appointment was concluded between about the interview was concluded between 30th and 31st July. And then results were being awaited. And yesterday, appointment letter was given to Professor Omenuga for her to continue to serve as the vice chancellor. Don't forget that in 2023, I think that was between November and December, she was appointed as the acting vice chancellor of that university. So now, she's been confirmed as the substantive vice chancellor. But there is a twist. People are saying that she was not the most qualified to have been appointed. People are saying that among the 5 persons, or rather among the persons who were interviewed for the various position, that she didn't score the best of scores. From what has been put out there, they are saying that one Professor Chiko Sebwe, scored like 83%. One Professor Leonard Onoba scored 81. Professor Chukwudi Okani scored 78. Professor Nama Umenweke scored 75, and then Professor Kate Omenoga scored 73, and she was appointed. They were asking questions, what happened? But I saw a statement which was issued by the press secretary to Governor Christian Aburime, where he explained the rationale behind the appointment, saying that the governor is empowered to base his appointment on the performance during the interview, as well as other factors which can enable the university to move forward. As since then, the banter has been so heavy, accusations and counter-accusations. But this very morning, I saw other reactions saying that it was the chairman of the governing board of the university that messed things up. Tony, what do you know about this?
What do I know? I've been reading stories from different angles. My own is to stand where the law stands. That's where I always find myself. And then in doing so, we asked, what does the law stipulate? And then if I'm aware, we know very well that there was a letter that the governor released on this issue. I'm just trying to look at that later. And then that is his reason, where he made us to understand the reason behind his selection or appointment decision. So having said that, we know very well that the university has a law. There's no doubt. And for the fact that the university has a law, the question is, was the law of the university followed? If it is not followed, it means that anybody with any grievance can challenge such in the courts. If you look at the reasons the governor gave, first, he made us understand, apart from commending the search committee or the committee that got involved in this selection process. So we are told that there were 9 out of 18 candidates that applied for the position that we are shortlisted. 18 candidates applied to become the vice chancellor of Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University, COOU. And out of that 18 candidates, 9 of them were shortlisted. And we also understand that that according to the report, that the visitor now is the governor. So in the university language, the governor is no more called the governor. He's now being referred as the visitor of the university. In fact, every state university, the governor of that very state is the visitor. Every federal university, the president is the visitor. So when we say the visitor, understand that we are referring to the governor. Now, going back to the issue, we are also told that the visitor noted that the names in the recommendation by the council pursuant to ordinance, that very part of the law is we am consigned, pursuant to ordinance 11 subsection 4 subsection D, which simply follows the order of scores, that the paragraph 1 of the statute 6 in the first schedule to the law provides that is quoting the law now, that the paragraph 1 of the statute 6 in the first schedule to the Chukwuemeka or the Megu Ojukwu University law provides that the vice chancellor shall be a professor appointed by the visitor after considering but not limited to the recommendation in that behalf from a joint committee of the council and the senate, given the discretionary power of the visitor. Now he made his appointment. I don't know if you understand that part of the law where they quoted that very law, the ordinance 2 subsection 4 subsection D statute 6 in the first schedule to the law, that is Chukwuemeka Ojukwu University, provides that the vice chancellor shall be a professor appointed by the visitor after considering, in bracket, but not limited to, we explain these things, the recommendation in that behalf from a joint committee of the council and senate. What that law is saying, the joint committee of the senate and the council, they have governing council, they must have a joint committee, and this committee must be drawn from the members of the senate and from the members of the governing council. And what will be the duty of this committee? They would make recommendation after screening, intervene, involving every process. That's the work of this committee. And now this committee recommended 3 persons for appointment based on their screening, and then they say that the recommendation is based on performance, and they also forwarded the performance of other persons. In fact, from the list I saw, they recommended 5 persons. They recommended 3 persons, but forwarded performance of 5 shortlisted candidates. Are you understanding this now? They forwarded the performance of 5 shortlisted candidates, but recommended 3, and that 3, the first person, the second person, and the third person. And the visitor says that the law does not say that he must base his appointment on the recommended. That is that part that says but not limited to. So now he felt that the 5th person be appointed, and he gave his excuse. He said that the 5th person was appointed as acting vice chancellor from December 2023, and since then he has won, or she has won, the trust of the university community. She has won the confidence of the university community, and she has started a lot of projects within the university community that it will be right to allow her to complete the projects she started, which means that her terms of office will be backdated to 2003. So what it means that she has spent over 2 years, 24, 25. So she has just remaining 3 years to serve out. Since she performed A, she had A, because the 5 persons had A. The first person had 87%. The second person had, I think, some something percent. The third person, and said that since all of them scored above 70, that 70 in the university amounts to A. That since she also was one of those that scored above 70, that it is right based on his own judgment, allow her to complete the project, the reforms she has started. But people are saying no, that the council, the joint committee recommended 3. Choose from the 3, not the 4th, not the 5th, but they forwarded the performance of the 5 candidates. But the question is, what does the law say? And the visitor has explained that the law says that his appointment cannot be limited to the recommendation. And that's the position of the law. And I keep saying here, if you are not satisfied with the position, you can challenge that. And people are saying that this is like Supreme Court judgment in Imo State, where the 4th person becomes the 1st. So, but he has given his reason that since he has started a project, the woman has started some projects, some reforms, so many things, that it will be right to allow her to serve at this.
So, Tony, why is it always contentious when it comes to the appointment of Vice Chancellor of University? We know how that of UNISIC went haywire. In fact, there were reports of alleged forgery because of that very appointment in UNISIC. And then we now go to KOU, and we're having similar thing. Why is it so contentious? Is it that everybody wants to deliver, or there is something about the office that everybody wants to go for?
That position is...
Can there be a time when the appointment of a VC cannot be contentious?
There will never be a time until we remove the money aspect of it and make it to be service oriented. Because they approve and disapproves. The vice chancellor sees to the running of the university, the day-to-day running of the university. They have impress, they work on. They have money, they have funds. So virtually everything that happens in the university comes or stops at the buck of the vice chancellor. Remember, there is pro-chancellor, there is chancellor, there is vice chancellor. But chancellor and pro-chancellor, these 2 positions are ceremonial. They don't have that executive powers. The only position that has executive power is the vice chancellor. And many vice chancellors, I know many of them are stupendously rich. I finished from University of Nigeria and Nsukka. When I got into University of Nigeria and Nsukka, we had the then vice chancellor Gumwok from Plateau State that was deployed by Abacha. But immediately Gumwok left. I think it was Ginigeme Banefo that took over from Gumwok. And then when we saw Ginigeme Banefo then, we saw him as not just a vice chancellor, but more like a president. So I think he was from Eziowili, if I'm not mistaken. He was from Eziowili. So, and he has convoy. The way governors, he had a convoy, massive office, and had a number of personnel working under him. And many of them, after becoming vice chancellor, they will build hotels in many places in Lagos and Abuja. Some of the contracts, the approved contracts, most of them had influence on the governing board. All they need to do is to settle the governing board, give them some tips, so that the governing board will allow whatever they bring before the council to sell through. They have their way. Many of them have their way. So the governing board most likely is their puppets. So that is why it is so contentious. The money aspect of it, the money in there is massive. Look at what happened in UNISIC. In fact, they tore themselves apart. And look at what happened in UNN. I'm aware that former SSG to Enugu State Government, Otto Anya, was appointed the VC of UNN. And the Polity is there. You remember most of these federal universities, they will now say that you must come from Enugu State before you become. There are a lot of, it's politics. Because for you to get in there, it's politics. So, but the appointment is something that is duly vested in the hands of the what? The visitor. The president when it comes to federal university, the governor when it comes to state university. And that's what the governor has done.
Well, the interesting thing is that, among, all of them who were nominated, should I say nominated, or the 5 of them, because I think I have had like personal contact with about 4 of them or thereabout. Okay. So I can personally say that, okay, they are qualified, and then governor has made his decision. So let's see what it becomes of the university in the coming days. By the way, my alma mater.
Oh, that's the alma mater. Right. And it's being rocked by this kind of politics. And there is also a growing feud where we
What's that supposed to mean?
But there is a growing feud where we are told, in fact, there is a release from the PRO where he said that Chidodem Kalu, who is the pro-chancellor of the university, had put himself for ridicule where he oversaw the search committee without the joint committee being formed, and even the chopping for a lot of things.
But we know we cannot take that statement from the PRO hook, line, and sinker. You know why? Because he has a bias.
Definitely, but the most important is to hear from the other side. I know Chido Mikalo is very active on X. He will reply. So from there, we now look at the issues and then try to see how we can balance it.
All right, so let's now switch to politics. So on politics, if you go to Vanguard newspaper, you see this headline that says 2027 Jonathan ready to run again. Close ally confirms. And the story reads that Nigeria's former president Dr. Goodluck Jonathan will be one of the leading candidates to confront incumbent President Bola Tinubu in 2027 presidential election. A close ally of the Bayelsa-born politician confirmed to Vanguard yesterday. The ally, who is also in the People's Democratic Party, as Jonathan, told Vanguard that the plan to draft the former president to contest on PDP's platform had gone far, and that he had accepted, adding that the former president was going into the race to find ways of addressing Nigeria's rising poverty, hardship, and the general suffering that had gripped the citizenry in recent years. The story goes on to say that the source said the project to bring back Jonathan to reposition Nigeria was being driven by key Nigerian leaders and elders who believed the former president stabilized the economy and the country within the 6 years of his administration. Now, the story goes on to also add that the source said it was in a bid to rescue the country and restore the dwindling economy and Nigeria to its pride of place, that these key PDP stakeholders and leaders began to plead with him for him to consider. And if you go down to read this very story, they're saying that Jonathan has consent. Okay, he's giving heed to this very plea, and one is wondering what is going to happen. The calculation is that he is the only one who can be drafted in, and if he wins, there's going to be no challenge of whether the person is going to serve for 4 years or going to serve for 8 years, because he only has one term to complete what the constitution stipulates. Now the question is, do you see Jonathan falling for this? And if he falls for this, what do you think can become of his reputation in Nigerian politics?
The first you asked, do I see Jonathan falling for this? The answer is no. I'm not seeing him to fall for this. And then if he falls, his reputation will be shattered. I remember Vanguard had been on this issue. There was many reports in the past where they say that political leaders from PDP and then from the north, they had met Jonathan, trying to push him to go into the race, describing him as a beautiful bride. But this day also confirmed that very report from Vanguard that northern leaders currently, they are actively encouraging him to run, although there had been some kind of confidence that maintained that it's too early for him to decide. Now, we also had the PDP Deputy National Public Secretary who backed the same call for his return. In fact, he called him a credible choice for the South in 2027, especially given his democratic precedent of conceding defeat in 2015. But I remember there was a time the wife, Dame Patience Jonathan, openly and explicitly stated that Jonathan will not return to Aso Rock, and also pledged her support to President Tinubu's re-election. We discussed this here.
I recall too.
That we now try to look at the reasons why she will pledge her own support to the re-election of Tinubu. So if you look at it, many analysts and opinion pieces I've read, many have described his potential comeback as theoretical and improbable. But I think I would rather go with what the wife said. There was a report again that Jonathan seems to be having problem with patience, that he has second wife. I saw it on Facebook. I don't know how true that is. And they pictured Jonathan with a woman, and they say that woman in question they pictured her with Jonathan is now the second wife.
Well, that second wife came into the picture when she bagged her PhD.
That is it.
Word on the street is that she's been there. She's just not been the first lady.
Exactly.
And Because we know noise.
So what it means that Jonathan is married to 2 women.
Does it? No. Difference?
I'm not saying what it makes. Most important thing I want to extract the authenticity is if Jonathan is married to 2 women.
Jonathan himself hasn't come to debunk.
And he hasn't said anything on that.
Yes.
He hasn't said, yes, I'm married to 2 women, or I'm not married to 2 women. So
it's inconsequential.
Why it's consequential is for us to know if Dame Patience Jonathan is speaking the mind of Jonathan, or if they're having issues, and then she goes this way. That's where I'm dragging the issue.
I mean, it's not like he got a first wife. Word on the street is that they've been married for a very long time. He's simply a silent polygamist.
Now, when she says Jonathan will not return to Aso Rock and pledging her own personal support to re-election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is she speaking for Jonathan? That's the question.
Jonathan didn't come out to debunk what she said.
One thing about Jonathan is that he doesn't like talking. Anything you say, he will keep small. There was a time, in fact, in 2023 general election, there was a time he was dragged into it. It was at 11th hour that he came out to say that he was not running, he wasn't interested. So we must keep our fingers crossed. But the most important thing is that Jonathan should continue with his humanitarian service to Africa and to the world. So it's important we highlight that. I'm aware that he has a legacy which cannot be dented, because those who are dragging him to join PDP, because look at the platform they want him to even run, those who are dragging him, if he joins PDP, he'll be messed up.
Now, if anything happens, and let's say he heard from the other side, and he feels convinced to go and run for the presidency for a second time, and the option is the PDP, what chance does he stand?
Many of the people in PDP, they are working for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So if he goes there, this time around, his level will go so low, honestly speaking, because the kind of defeat he will suffer will be something unexpected. If anybody who is contesting presidency under PDP knows that he's just there as a placeholder, in fact, he's just there to be mixed or tossed around.
Yeah,
many of them are working for President.
I want to ask you, Tony, because in the middle of all of the conversations, what I sense is the average Nigerian person not even being considered in all the dynamics about who leads them. So Jonathan is the one who is certainly going to only do 1 term, because he's done 1 term by the Constitution. He can only ever do 1 more term. The question is Jonathan the man for the job? Looking at the plethora of issues we have in Nigeria, is Jonathan the man? If given a chance, going by his antecedents, can he fix Nigeria?
Jonathan had the opportunity to fix Nigeria. He had opportunity and he did not fix it.
So he cannot.
Now you are asking if he can fix Nigeria. Once you have given that opportunity and you couldn't do it, stay away. We keep trying. In fact, it's going to be a kind of experimentation, even when we know that governance cannot be experiment. Yes, there's what we call the heuristic approach in competing. Heuristic approach, more like keep trying something with the belief, with intent, intentional trials, with little adjustment, just to get the output. Heuristic approach. So the point is, Jonathan had opportunity and he couldn't fix Nigeria. Just like anybody who has got an opportunity and he did not start any fundamental and foundation reforms that we catalyze, crystallize, precipitate the kind of Nigeria we want, shouldn't be asked for another opportunity to you must complete what good you have started. You don't complete anything you've not started well. So anything good you've started, and we've seen how fundamental that thing is, then when you ask for more time, you'll be given opportunity, and it's left for the people to decide. So for me, Jonathan had 5 good years, not just 4 years. Jonathan had 5 years.
So did he fail as a president?
If you look at the yardstick, if you look at it, most of the problems he met, did he solve anyone? He met insecurity crisis. He met economy shattered. All the problems he met. Look at power.
They said he made food cheap.
Not about me. When he came to power, was food not cheap? Food was already cheap when he came. In fact, when he came, the price went a bit up. So the point is, what you met on ground and how you try to change that is what matters. It's not when you were in power. When Jonathan was in power, when the other was in power, a bag of 50 kg rice was 6,000. When Jonathan was in power. That is when he succeeded Yaradua. A bag of 50 kg rice became 7,000. So what it means that 1,000 was added on top of the what Jonathan met. 1,000 was added. If Jonathan had reduced that 6,000 he inherited from Yaradua and possibly bring it down to 3,000, now we now say he has done something by bringing something down he inherited. It's not about when you came into power, things were moderately cheap and all that, and you were able to maintain that for a long time, and you call it achievement. The most important thing is that most of our problems, especially, look at none of these presidents had been able to solve our power crisis. Power.
So is that the reason why human rights lawyer Femi Falana is saying what he said yesterday? Because yesterday he lamented that politics in Nigeria is now in the hands of criminals and touts who care little about investing in the country's economic prosperity and well-being of its citizens. In fact, there was a presentation that was made, or a panel conversation, where he made that very statement, and some persons have reacted. Some are saying that it was a statement of fact. Some persons are saying it was a fallacy. That in politics, yes, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it wasn't near correctness for him to have said that our politics is in the hands of touts and criminals. So do you agree with him?
I disagree with him. You know why I disagree with him? Even our university systems that have been in the hands of professors, how are these universities faring? Even our electoral system, as we see them presently constituted, are also in the hands of professors. How is our electoral system faring? Professors who are returning officers in most elections have become the grade 1 or grade A criminals. But that's the truth. Many of them have returned fake people. So they work in count with these so-called criminals and touts. See, the leadership is not about how brainy, how intelligent you may sound. Leadership is something inborn. You must be called for that. It's a ministry. It's a ministry. That's leadership. It's a ministry. If you are not called, you are not called. That is it. It's not about how highly this or how lowly this. The most important thing, are you called? But remember one thing, I must say this. I got a report this morning that foreign investors have sold off equities worth 576.09 billion on the Nigerian exchange, that is our stock exchange, between January and June. I was saying, what have we done wrong? And that represented about 84.97% increase from what happened within the same period in 2024. Within the same period from January to June, many of them sold off their equities. That one amounted to about 311.4 billion naira, but in 2025 is now 576.09 billion naira. Why would they be selling their equities, closing, leaving Nigeria? But we are told that there was also an inflow, because you must balance it. We are told that there was an inflow of 559.25 billion within the same period. That is, there were those that came in, but they did not come in form of the equity market. They brought investment. We saw the ones in Oyo State. There is African Development Bank, and then we saw the one in Kano, Kaduna, and Lagos, and the Abuja, where we are told Abuja now becomes the destination hub for investment in Nigeria. But we are told that when you minus the one that came in and the one that left, 16.8 billion is negative balance we have. We are having negative balance. So what it means that the ones that left is higher than the one that came in. And the ones that left, they left our equity market, our stock market. But the ones that came into maybe most of these development banks that wants to come in with the agro processing zones in Oyo State, in also in Abuja, in Lagos, and then in Kaduna. See, we must ask ourselves basic question: if our foreign investors will be leaving our equity market this way, look at the amount involved. So
does that lay credence to what Falana said, that those who are running politics, which is supposed to be used to better the lives of the people, that they are the wrong people?
Definitely, we have wrong leaders. There's no doubt. But the point here I'm trying to make, where I'm trying to say I disagree with Falana, is where he may be implying that unless these things are in the hands of the so-called
learned people, that's the area I'm disagreeing with.
So but the truth remains that we have got the wrong choices of leaders. In fact, our problem is Basically, leadership problems.
So what are we supposed to be shopping for? Because you look around, the electoral system makes it look like only people who have money can vie for electoral offices. And most of these people, for the want of a better word, we were here when the tag Monday D7 came up for Edo State Governor. A lot of other tags. Some time ago, Peter Obi was dragged for having a second-class lower, and it looks like no one is spared. So what should we be shopping for? Because the system also makes it quite difficult for even well-meaning people to come in.
You know, we've seen people ask what or the people will be shopping for. Now, Nigeria is at the precipice. We are at the crossroad. And then we will not delay more with any form of experimentation or that heuristic approach I did mention earlier on. I think what we'll be looking at now will be leaders who have the capacity to fix ruts and take certain decisions. You know, most times there are decisions I've said, do they have the political will? You must have the political will to take certain decisions that may even affect you and your family. We need selfless leaders, not selfish leaders. People that are selfless, that are ready to make sacrifices, that are ready to show that patriotism.
Are they here?
We have them in Nigeria.
So how do they come into the system?
Because look at now, because we have tried politicians, and people will say they failed. We have tried technocrats, and people will say they failed.
How many technocrats have we even had?
So who are we getting?
We have some of these leaders already. Remember, there are people, not all of them are bad anyway. There are ones that are doing things, because Nigeria has a complex problem. We don't say that all our leaders from president to the level of councillor, they are all wrong. No, we can't say that. I can take time and tell there are some governors that are doing good. And we have one in Anambra State. No matter how you look at it.
But why does it look like the system we run is that onye bato di kibeya? Because sometimes you see somebody and you think that this person is going to make so much difference, and the person comes, makes so many promises, talks about El Dorado, make promises about heaven on earth. At the end of the day, when it's time to deliver, the person begins to shift the goalposts when the game is on.
That is the point. We have derailed. In fact, there are a lot of decadence in our society. I remember the likes of M.I. Paraden. Many of them died without anything. I remember so many. That generation had better leaders than the generation we have now. But there's no doubt about it. But I'm also saying that there's no way a country will have over 240 million people and all of them are all bad people. There's two good ones. And you have asked this question, how then do we get
them? We have these very good persons. Okay, we have these very good people. But the problem we have always had is that when they come into the system that is corrupt, the system has a way of changing.
That is the point. And I've said here, frankly, that we need a leader that will begin foundational changes and reforms, which may even affect him.
So can we say that?
Which may even affect. We started this program with a report where NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, said that the Attorney General, in exercising his powers, should come forward for probe and investigation. We ask, is that not overreach, abuse of power?
Anthony, can we say that the type of leadership we have in the country is a reflection of our society?
It's a reflection, it's a mirror of what our society is. And many of us that comes out here and say our leaders are bad, in that very market you are, how many times have you cut corners? You sell fake products to people, you adulterate products to people, you sell original or fake or the one that has no quality as original. For those of you in Emeka, for those of you in different markets, even in building, even in Obogo, everywhere, many of them have committed major haram than these are leaders. And they are through their actions. They have sent many people homes to their rural communities, doing nothing, and many of them have also killed a lot inadvertently. The point is, the society We have had worst institutions that cannot stand tall in the midst of all these anomalies. It's not about repentance. Even if you proclaim repentance now, without our institutions being what it should be, definitely the rot will continue. We need a strong institutions where these institutions will not be influenced by anybody, irrespective of status or political height, by any means.
Okay, so
these are things we did.
Let's go to the phone lines. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Don't forget that we're also live on our Facebook page. You can just get across there and drop your comment. Okay, hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Your name?
This is Sunday from Ebuka.
Sunday from Ebuka. Yes.
I only buy this last analysis you people said. We are talking of leadership. Our followers are more water than the leaders. In Nigeria here, I need to tell you, go to the street, go to the market, go to the transporters, everywhere there is no service. Even in universities, everywhere people want to cheat, and we are blaming leaders. Who is going to replace the leader? Is it not the followers who replace the leader? And that's why we are still getting worse than worse. Because 2007 we are talking. Both the Senate, both the House, both is the followers that will replace them. So please, we need to act on grassroots, doing what is right, so that we can get a good leader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In fact, I like Mr. Sunday. He was succinct and direct to the point. Hello, good morning. Okay, I'll try again. Don't forget the phone lines. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Good morning. Okay, try again.
You have to take it easy. You don't need to rush it.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but your voice is faint.
Okay, let me just move around. Hello?
Bring your phone to your mouth. Your phone seems to be far away from your mouth.
I'm at work. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go on.
Oh, good morning, House. My lady, good morning. You made a strong silent point this morning. Appreciate you. Yes. We were talking about Jonathan and his wife and all that. That does not concern us. But
Okay, your voice is becoming fainter than it was. Okay. Okay, sorry, I think you have to call us back, please. Your voice was becoming fainter than it was before. We can appreciate if you can call back.
I think her phone wasn't close to her mouth.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
My name is, hello.
Yes, your name?
My name is George, calling from Asaba.
Okay, go on, Mr. George.
Yeah, you see, the truth is that we have a general problem in Nigeria, and a very big one for that matter, which that we don't even know who we can choose anymore to be our leader in the country. But no matter the way we look at it, there must be somebody that is honorary. There's no time you can tell me that this country that we have over 230 million people, that there's nobody that can lead this country very well. Just that they have not given those set of people the opportunity. Like the person of P2B, with what they have shown us in the past few years. And Jonathan, see, there's what I would like to say. Jonathan can never be compared with the leadership that we have from Buhari to this people that we're having threatened today. What I'm saying is that it's not easy that you be in power and you make some certain things be stable for the poor masses. That is the most important thing. It's not that you are there that, yes, there must be some inflation on food price in the market. But let it don't go overboard. The one that will affect the citizens, don't affect the poor masses in the country. That is what exactly that will. Even the time of Buhari, we know that things are hard. So, but not so hard the way it is now. Because why am I saying this? That we understand that during the time of what they call Olisa Mbeki, we are buying for 15 naira. For 15 naira, Gaja, Jonathan bought for 100 naira. Even the time of Tinubu, the time of Buhari, that was started buying for 250. We are still managing. So from 250 now, final fly to 1,000 plus. And you are telling me that the study firm
right, George.
Who is fully ruled? Who is fully ruled? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, George, for calling. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, your name?
Yeah. Thank you. Sunday from Name.
Sunday, go on.
Yeah. Concerning Jonathan. For me, I don't know whether he left any other than the Alpha Rock. Or he forget any other. Because as far as I'm concerned, this year's as a president is, I think, the way to, especially to the south, north, south, southeast, and the entire south. You know, because I cannot mention one thing that he did for the south. Forget about people like say Bank of Rice. Until the former president Buhari came and renovate Niger, Super Niger Bridge, MNA port, and some roads. Can anybody point out one thing? And that's how people are, even in his own region. Yes, the only thing that he become the fifth richest president with his wife. So for me, when people are saying Jonathan, I think he's just personal good. Personally, he's good, but coming to being leadership. Look at what this president is doing now. Building ultramodern highway in their region, making the ultramodern airport in Lagos, and building infrastructure that the next generation will benefit. Forget about people like this. Udala, too high prices. So what I'm trying to say in essence that Jonathan should forget about anything about coming again because his leadership before I don't benefit anything.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sonny from Newe. Good morning. Okay, try again. Let's see whether we can get a better connection for us to bring you on board. Good morning.
Good morning, Udala ladies.
Good morning. Your name?
My name is Mr. Onya.
Mr. Onya, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Onitsha.
Okay, Mr. Onya, don't me this very favor. Walk away from your radio set.
Okay.
All right.
I've done so.
Yes, go on, sir.
The question I want to say, or the word I want to say is that all this blame must blame for our leaders. Both everything that's happening in the market, everything that's happening everywhere. It is our leaders, because if our leaders are behaving well, the followers will behave well. But if our leaders are grabbing our money, runging them, doing all sorts of favor, the followers will follow them, do the same thing. So that is the problem we have in this country. We don't have a good leader. If we have a good leader now, all these followers will follow them in the right way. That is my comment there. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, Franklin.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for joining.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tony Mbeki, I greet you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, voice of Wizard Sack, reach right now for Masaba.
Go on.
Yeah. Okay. I think I totally agreed with what Tony said during his last submission. You know, leadership, you see, is not all about being rich or being well exposed or being well educated. No. Because when you take a look at it, look at the profile and the CVs of our different leaders. When you take a look at all these things, you will marvel. In fact, if we were to go by the profile and the CV, we are not supposed to suffer. Nigeria is supposed to be the #1 country in the world. If we were to go with all these things. But why is the country the way it is? Because they don't have that heart of giving. They don't have that heart of being selfless. They are always selfish with their things of doing. That's why you see the country being the way it is. So, no matter how it is, if you like, be educated. If you like, travel the whole world and be with with wonderful mind. As long as you don't have that heart of giving, you don't have that selfless heart, then you're never going to make up. You're never going to be a good leader. Because are you well exposed and well educated and Tinubu? Forget about all these things that you're talking about. If Tinubu went to school or not. If Tinubu is well exposed, he's well educated. Just look at the way he speaks. But why has he not been able to govern the country in a way that we are expecting him to? Because he doesn't have that heart. So no matter how you trying to say. As long as that heart is not there, there are a lot of people around me here that, I know them so much, they are very rich. But the people around them are still suffering. Why? Because they don't have that heart of giving. But the little people, but there are some core people around us that have that heart of giving. Well, you see the people around them excelling because why? They have that heart of giving. So it's not how educated or how exposed you are, but it is all about you having that heart of doing what you're supposed to do. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Hello.
Yes, good morning to Franklin, Olisa Mbeki, good morning to all of us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Honorable Dick, and I'm reaching you from Onitsha.
Go on.
Just like I said, I think in my submission yesterday, I was just took a little bit example from those who are playing the league. Various countries of the world, they go for their best. Sometimes you see them, they sell off some players and get better players. So I think you don't go to war with injured players or go to a very good tournament with injured players. Nigeria is just joking with this very country. But they're not patriotic. That's the simple truth. How can you be going to a tournament, going for a serious business with injured, not just injured men, but injured old men that have run out of 5 years? And look at just what you are contemplating here. You see a man that is most competent and you are looking at someone that is closing to 80 years old. So come and do what? So I think we are just toying with the future of this very great country. If we want to get it right, let's get it right. But Judge, good luck, Jonathan, try to vie for second term. I think it's a welcome development. These are the type of people we need. You don't take it away from him, though we have a popular candidate which Nigeria is yearning for. But such a man who is still in his early 60s or late 70s, or I think early 70s or late 50s, I mean, we can still accommodate him. Not just trying to get people that have run out of 5 years. So I think if we really want to get this right, we'll get this right. If we don't want to get this right, bet you me, this country, I think Somalia is just, I think, part before we made that statement some time ago, what we are just seeing is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
But I believe that we really want to get this right. We can get this right by ensuring a better candidate that can be able to get things right in this country. The way we are going, I don't really understand the issue of human beings to
All right.
find in this
Thank you,
part of the
DK.
world.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. All right. So for now, let's go to our Facebook page.
All right, we are starting with your comment to Maule Bara. She says, my heartfelt sympathy goes to the Ghanaians. May God grant the dead eternal rest and give us the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss. Emir Sanusi, you can say that again and again. Yes, we are being ruled by dealers and not rulers, people without the fear of God and milk of human kindness. May God save his children. Okay. Masokwe SJP says, 2027 presidential election, Nigerians should look out to vote credible, transparent, and accountable leaders to be president to save our good people from the bottom line of corruption. A corrupt leader should be considered a murderer. Quote me. Quote Okwe SJP, not me, please.
We'll quote you. Okay.
Not Chisom.
All right.
Okwe SJP said that. Sebastian Apigwe, he says, I wish to join the group calling for the cancellation of the just concluded WASE examination. Honestly, such is not an exam but a vigil. Vigil. Yeah, when you say vigil, it covers for night as well. It means something that happens at night. And have never been seen in the history of this country called Nigeria. Interesting. Also, Francis Nnamani, former President Goodluck Jonathan, should not run for presidency again to save his global reputation. Going for presidency may nearly mar his political career. And what else can he want from a political career outside the presidency? He's got it all, right?
Maybe he left something there.
Ooh, okay, Chukwudi Joshua says VC is higher than commissioner or ministers when it comes to federal level. Attorney.
I think it's just a question. I guess the person is just trying to ask a question. If you talk about at the federal level, Minister of Education is higher in rank compared to the Vice Chancellor.
What about commissioner?
The commissioner, if at the state level, is higher in rank compared to commissioner, because the commissioner for education oversees everything about education.
Well, VC oversees at a particular institution.
But VC is just for
so
a
commissioner
particular
is higher
in rank, political rank.
Okay. Chukudi Joshua says, okay, I took your question earlier. I bet you already have your answer. Emperador K. Richie, he says, good luck, Jonathan should not think of returning to power because this time he will be defeated effortlessly. Secondly, the problem of Nigeria is the constitution. Make the constitution people friendly and the country might just be better. I think that's what you mean to say. There's another comment here. Let's see what Sent Badmores says. It says, if Goodluck Jonathan becomes a presidential candidate of the PDP, then Yeson Wike, Akpabio and Co may likely work against Tinubu. And if the North throw their support consistently behind Jonathan, then Tinubu will lose the forthcoming election if he fails to ruthlessly rig the election the way Buhari did in 2019 and 2023.
Okay, so Tony, we have to wrap up this very program. But before we go, is there any way we can, within 1 minute, talk about what happened with Fuji musician Wasiu Ayinde, aka Kwan Wan? Because from what we get at, he risks being placed on a no-fly list by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority following his unruly behavior during boarding at the Abuja airport and the disrupting flight operations. We saw it in Soshomole. I
wanted to mention that Adam Soshomole did something similar, because he's highly placed. He went away with it.
Kwam's media aide has come out to say that what Kwam did is being misrepresented.
Now, did you see the video? I watched the video this very morning because, sometimes when incident happens this very way, you're going to have different reactions. I watched the video to see how he was approaching a taxiing aircraft.
That's wrong. Forget whatever media image they want to London. The most important thing is we are lawless people. And he did exactly what a leader did. Who is the leader? Adam Soshomole. He is a follower. And then he copied what he had seen him doing something like that, and nothing happened to him. And most times when leaders are doing things, don't think that it will not come back to haunt us, because followers are watching. They will do the same thing. And when some people will tell you, the one thing about followers, I will agree that they are not we are not good followers, where we don't demand accountability. When we have opportunity to do certain things right because of our morapo and then primordial interest, just price of no do's and some of these things, we do things awkwardly. But the most important thing is that what the young man did is absolutely wrong. And for the fact that the leader did something wrong and you copy him does not make the one you did not to be wrong. So it is wrong. So don't copy wrong things from leaders. We can take that.
Okay, so he has explained that what the not NCA this time, what Fan said isn't true, because Fan was saying that that an officer wanted him to go for further clearance because he was trying to board with a flask containing substance suspected to be alcohol.
One thing we need to do, we must automate some of these things. We must remove human interface in our airport system. In fact, in visual everything, we must digitize. We must bring in smart systems in how we do things. If you are to board and some of these things are contained, and then you have possibly a machine telling you can't go further, will you go and find the machine?
The thing is, we have this very mindset of a renowned person, popular, and because of that,
he cannot do this in Heathrow Airport. He travels, right? Can he repeat what he did at that airport, at Heathrow Airport? He cannot. He cannot. When we leave the shores of this country, we become saints. In fact, we become law-abiding. But when we come back to our own country, we become rascals. Reason, bad institution.
All right, so Chisom, we have to go.
Definitely, we have to go, hoping that someday the academic situation of our nation, Nigeria, gets better, referring to the WASSER examinations and the controversies that have come up.
Okay, on that very note, we thank you for joining this very conversation, and I'm just going to leave you to one word this very morning, which is, because if you understand that no politician will consider your interest first, what they do is that they consider that their convenience first and your interest comes second.
Oh, you mean Nigerian politicians?
Thank you for listening. Good morning. My name is Franklin and Chisom.
ìwà ló ń mú ẹsẹ̀ irun orí ìwọ dúdú ọmọ pupa báwo ló ṣe rí.